I'm not standing here as some kind of teacher or philosopher or anything like that, folks. I'm just Bob Harlan, a 7-year-old old man sitting on this old wooden chair by the shore of Lake Erie in Ohio. The wind blowing nice and cool, but my heart all tangled up inside. For so many years I believed I was building something really solid. My job supervising construction sites, a wife and kids gathered around, a decent house. But now, everything seems to be slipping away from me quietly, without any complaint at all. I'm telling you guys my story not to complain, but simply because this old man has gotten old enough to see things a little clearer. You know, when you get old, you start to see that life isn't something you can hold on to forever. I was born in 1947 inches, a small town near Cleveland. Grew up with days of manual labor. At 25, I started working as a supervisor on highway and overpass construction sites in the Midwest. The guys on my shift called me Big Bob because I was tall and always shouting orders at everybody. I married Elizabeth in 1972. She was a sweet elementary school teacher. We had 2 kids, Mike born in 1975, Lisa born in 1978. Those years I worked like a mule, 12-hour shifts, weekends still driving a truck hauling materials. I figured if I worked hard enough, I'd have a solid life later on. Kids proud of their dad, wife with nothing to worry about. Damn, back then I believed it for sure. Then time flew by like a flash. In 2005, I had an accident on the job site. A steel beam fell on my back, and I've had chronic pain ever since. But I hung on until I was 65 before I retired. Elizabeth was still healthy then, and we dreamed about long fishing trips on Lake Erie. Then, in 2018, she was diagnosed with serious heart disease and passed away just 3 months later. I remember that day like it was yesterday, standing by her hospital bed with my hands shaking like crazy. After that, the house was empty. Mike's in Arizona now, working as a software engineer, busy with his own wife and kids. Lisa's in Michigan, teaching and taking care of her 2 grandkids. They call and check in regularly, but I know they have their own lives and can't keep hugging me forever. At first I tried to keep up the old pillar of the family role. I fixed the roof myself, mowed the backyard, even joined the retirees club in town and played bingo every Wednesday. The old guys laughed and chatted away, but I felt out of place. Everybody just complained about their joints or how the grandkids never visited. I'd laugh along to be polite, but inside I thought, I'm no different from them. I still drove my old 2008 Ford to the market, bought fresh fish, and fried it like Elizabeth used to. But eating alone just didn't taste good. Sometimes I'd turn on the radio and listen to old country music, sit and stare out at the lake, and my heart would feel strangely empty. Have you ever wondered if all those years you poured into work and family really gave anything back to you personally? I sure asked myself that a lot. I used to think if I did things right, I'd get to sit back and enjoy it later. Reality was different. The kids grew up. They had their own jobs and worries. I was still their dad, but I wasn't the center anymore. Mike video called once a week and said, "How you doing, Dad?" Then had to jump into another meeting. Lisa sent pictures of the grandkids, but I could only look at them on a screen. I couldn't hug them. I started to feel like an old bridge, still standing there but nobody crossing it anymore. Then my friends started going one by one too. Frank, my best buddy from the construction days, passed away last year from a stroke while he was working on his car in the garage. We once drove cross-country together to the Grand Canyon in 1995, singing the whole way, with Elizabeth laughing her head off in the back seat. Now Frank's gone, and I drive alone to the lake to fish, cast my line and just sit there quiet. Even when the fish bite, I don't whoop like I used to. I realized friendship, no matter how tight, is still temporary. Life takes things away one by one. Without asking permission, my health started betraying me too. My back ached every morning when I woke up, and the doctor said I had to walk at least 3 miles every day. I tried walking the trail along the lake, but the cold wind off Lake Erie made my knees creak. One time I fell right in the middle of the path. Luckily, a young jogger saw me and helped me up. I was so embarrassed, went home and drank 2 glasses of whiskey and cursed under my breath. "Bob, you're old now, you can't handle it anymore." I tried to keep my old routines, get up early, make black coffee, read the Cleveland Plain Dealer, but my mind kept wandering back to the days when I was strong and bossing whole crews around. I started clinging to little things to feel like I was still useful. I volunteered to fix houses for elderly folks in town. Every week, there was something. Changing light bulbs, patching roofs, installing handrails. At first, I felt good, thinking I was still Big Bob from the old days. But gradually I realized I was doing it because I was afraid of being alone, not because I enjoyed it. Back home, I'd sit and look at the old photos on the wall. Elizabeth smiling big, the kids, when they were little, me in my hard hat on the job site. The pictures were still there, but the people in them weren't anymore. I felt a dull sadness, like someone was slowly pulling the foundation out from under my feet. You know, I used to believe my savings, and this house would be my safety net. I had a decent retirement fund, enough to live comfortably, but money can't buy the sound of grandkids laughing, can't buy a good night's sleep. Every night I'd wake up at 2 in the morning, lying there thinking about everything. What if I fall and nobody knows? What if I get really sick? I'd try calling Mike and say, "Can you come visit this weekend, son?" And he'd say, "Dad, I'm in the middle of a big project." I'd force a laugh and say, "Yeah, if you're busy, then never mind." But after hanging up, I'd just sit there, stunned, my heart feeling heavy as lead. The stress built up slowly. I started staying inside more, sitting in the house listening to old Elvis Presley vinyl records. Elvis's voice would come on, and I'd remember Elizabeth dancing in the kitchen. Now, it was just me in the memories. One time I drove to Cleveland to watch a Guardians baseball game, hoping the crowd atmosphere would cheer me up. But sitting in the middle of all the cheering fans, I felt lonelier than ever. Everybody around me had kids or grandkids with them, and there I was alone. On the drive home, I asked myself, what are you even doing, Bob? You spent your whole life building bridges and roads for other people. Now who's going to build one for you? I tried to change by reading books about old age, listening to podcasts on mental health. One book talked about letting go of old expectations. I nodded along, but my heart wasn't ready. I thought, I've already lost my wife, my health, my role. If I let go of everything else, what's left? I kept going to the retired construction workers' get-togethers, but fewer people showed up each time, and everybody had their own health problems. We'd tell old stories and laugh loud, but when the meeting broke up, each guy went his own way, and I'd drive home in the pouring rain with that empty feeling flooding over me. My heart started getting stormy. I'd fuss around fixing the garage, painting the fence, acting like if the house looked nice, my heart would calm down. But the more I did, the more tired I got, and my back hurt so bad I'd have to take pain pills. The doctor warned me that if I didn't reduce stress, my heart could have problems. I'd just smile and say, "I'm fine, doc." Truth was, I was scared that everything I once thought was solid work, family health, was really just temporary. And if they disappeared, then who was I? I remember one afternoon in October, the air chilly. I was walking along the lake shore with yellow leaves falling all around. I stopped and looked at the rippling water and wondered if I was wasting whatever time I had left. I used to teach my kids to be strong and responsible, and now here I was feeling weak myself. The advice I want to give you young folks right now is, don't wait until your hair turns grey to stop and look inside yourself. Build a little inner peace right now, because the outside world changes fast, and it doesn't wait for anybody. The stress inside me kept growing bigger. Every night I'd dream of Elizabeth calling me from far away, but I'd run and never reach her. I'd wake up drenched in sweat. I started talking to myself, cursing my aching back, cursing the silent phone. You thought you could control everything, huh, Bob? I'd ask myself. Have you ever felt like everything you built your whole life suddenly became as fragile as a piece of paper? That's what I was living with. Every day that passed, I realized more and more that I'd spent way too much time on the outside and way too little on my own mind. I tried joining a support group for older men who'd lost their wives, sitting there listening to everybody tell their stories. One guy said he used to think he was the pillar too, and now he was just a shadow. I nodded, but I wasn't ready to admit it yet. Back home, I'd open the closet and pull out the old photo album, turning page after page, hundreds of pictures. The job site in 1985, family picnic by the lake, Mike holding his first pair of boxing gloves. Everything was still there, but I was fading. My heart felt like there was a deep hole inside, getting wider every day. I knew if I didn't do something, it was going to swallow me whole. I went out less and less. I even stopped going to bingo. I'd sit by the window looking at Lake Erie, the wind blowing harder, waves slapping the shore. I thought about the bridges I used to build, how solid they were, but my own life wasn't solid like that. I started feeling tired all the time. Not tired from work, but tired from trying to hold on to things that weren't mine anymore. And deep down, I knew a big change was coming. I couldn't keep living like this forever. I decided I had to do something different before everything completely fell apart. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual, made a strong black coffee and drove my old Ford straight out to the trail along Lake Erie. The cold wind off the water hit my face, autumn leaves falling like they were reminding me time waits for no one. I walked slowly, trying to breathe deep like those podcasts said, but my mind was still spinning with all kinds of worries. Bob, you're a damn fool. You spent your life building solid bridges for other people, and now your own life's bridge is shaking with every step. I muttered to myself, kicking a rock hard on the path so my knee joints cracked. The stress kept rising as that winter came early. Snow fell thick and I stayed inside the house for 3 whole weeks, only going out to buy canned food and pain medicine. Mike called on video once. He looked tired from a new project in Arizona and said, "Hang in there, Dad. I'll try to make it home for Christmas." I forced a smile and said, "Yeah, son, don't worry. Dad's fine." But after hanging up, I threw the phone on the sofa and cursed out loud, "You piece of shit. Fine my ass." The house was cold, the heater running loud, but my heart still frozen. I started having strange dreams. Elizabeth standing by the lake waving, but I couldn't swim to her, the water pulling me down deep. I'd wake up soaked in sweat, heart pounding like a drum. Then the climax hit one night in the middle of December. I was sitting there watching an old Guardians baseball DVD when suddenly my chest hurt like someone stabbed me with a knife. The pain shot down my left arm and I couldn't breathe. Oh Lord, I was really scared. My hands shaking, I dialed 911, my voice cracking. I think my heart's about to stop. The ambulance got there in 10 minutes. Red and blue lights flashing on the white snow. At the hospital, the doctor said I had a severe angina attack. Lucky it wasn't a full heart attack. They kept me for 3 days for observation. Lying in that hospital bed, alone in the all-white room with no radio and nobody beside me, I finally faced what I feared most, the silence of my own. That was the biggest turning point of my life. I lay there staring at the ceiling, asking myself, if today was my last day, Bob, what would you regret? It wasn't not building one more bridge or not making more money. I regretted ignoring myself for 77 years. I regretted letting the roles of husband, father, and construction supervisor define my whole life. Right then I decided, when I get out of here, I'm not going back to the old way of living. I was going to learn how to sit with myself, no matter how hard it was. The doctor told me to rest and reduce stress. I nodded, but I knew better than anyone this time I was really going to do it. When I got home from the hospital, everything looked the same, but I was different. I cleared a little corner of the living room, put down the old wooden chair, a notebook, and the hourglass Elizabeth had left behind. Every morning, instead of rushing to make coffee and fussing with little repairs, I'd sit still for 15 minutes. At first it was awful. My mind wandered like a wild horse, thinking about the electric bill, wondering if Mike would call, worrying how my back would feel tomorrow. I'd curse under my breath. Damn it, why can't you just shut up? But I stuck with it. I just watched the thoughts come and go, without chasing them or arguing. Little by little, some distance appeared. I realized I wasn't those worries. They were just clouds passing across the sky. Have you ever wondered that if everything on the outside, kids, job, even health, can change in a single night, then what really stays with you? I asked myself that question hundreds of times after the heart scare, and the answer came from those quiet mornings. My own awareness, the ability to watch and choose how to respond. I started keeping a journal, not the what I ate today kind, but what I felt today and why. I wrote down the old fears and the expectations that weren't real anymore. I'd laugh to myself reading it back. Bob, you used to think you were the center of the universe. Turns out you're just an old man who worries too much. Lisa called and said she'd bring the 2 grandkids for a visit over the holidays. This time I didn't push them to stay long. I just said, I'm happy you're coming. No need to do anything special. When they arrived, the house was full of laughter for the first time in years. My grandson ran around the snowy yard. My granddaughter sat drawing by the fireplace. I didn't try to be the perfect grandpa anymore. I just sat and watched, enjoying the moment without trying to hold on to it. Mike managed to fly in for 2 days too. We sat by Lake Erie drinking hot coffee, the wind cold but our hearts warm. I told them about the heart scare and the mornings sitting quietly by myself. Mike looked surprised and said, "You've changed, Dad." I smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm old, but I finally got a little wiser." The stress melted away like snow in spring sunshine. My back still hurt. I still felt lonely when the kids left, but now I wasn't afraid anymore. I joined a music group at the community center and picked up my old harmonica. Every Thursday afternoon I'd sit with a few other old guys playing old country tunes. Not to show off, just to feel my own breath and the music coming out of me. I made a new friend named Carl, also 75, who used to be a mechanic. He told me how he almost lost everything after his wife died too. We'd walk along the lake together, not talking much, just being quiet side by side. I realized real friendship doesn't need noise, it just needs presence. I also started reading books about meditation, not the mystical kind, but the practical kind. One book talked about letting go of things you can't control. I put it into practice right away. letting go of expecting the kids to call every day, letting go of fear about the unknown future. In their place came small gratitude. Gratitude for a hot cup of coffee in the morning. Gratitude for breath that was still steady. Gratitude for the ability to sit quietly without panicking. Those simple things brought a strange kind of joy that didn't need anybody's praise. I wasn't Big Bob shouting orders anymore. I was just old Bob, more at peace, and that was enough. Have you ever taken just 10 minutes a day to sit alone with your own thoughts? No phone, no TV, just watching. I recommend you try it, whether you're barely over 50 or already 70 like me. At first, it'll feel terribly uncomfortable, your mind fighting back like a stubborn child. But stick with it for a month and you'll see the difference. It won't save you from physical pain or loss, but it will change how you live with those things. And the third question I want to ask is real peace really something that comes from inside you? Or are you still waiting for the outside world to arrange it for you? I used to wait for the kids to come home, wait for better health, wait for everything to settle down. But now I know peace doesn't wait. It's right here, in the moment you decide to stop chasing and start watching. The next spring, I drove alone to the Grand Canyon for the second time, not to prove anything, just to stand on the rim, wind blowing my white hair, looking down into the deep canyon. I wasn't clinging to the past or worrying about the future anymore. I was just there, breathing, feeling. When I got home, I hung up a painting my granddaughter drew for me, an old man sitting by the lake with a gentle smile. That's me now. Not perfect, still aching, still missing Elizabeth like crazy, but I've found something more solid than any bridge I ever built. Life keeps changing. More friends have passed. My health goes up and down, the kids stay busy, but I don't fight it anymore. I accept it, I watch it, and I treasure what's left. The last piece of advice I want to give you, especially those of you around my age, don't wait for a heart scare or for the house to go silent before you start looking inside. Start today, even if it's just 5 minutes. Nurture your inner world the same way you once nurtured your family and your work, because in the end, that's the only thing nobody can take away from you. I don't regret the old years. They made me the man I am today. But now I live differently, lighter, freer, and more real. If you're reading these words and your heart feels moved, ask yourself if you're ready to change yet. Life isn't about holding on. It's about experiencing from the inside. What do you think about this journey? If my story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share your own thoughts or experiences, and subscribe to get more real stories from this old man in Ohio. See you in the next storytelling sessions. Wishing you all peace.